Hey. Recording, we're live.
Good. All right. All right, well, we'll bring the meeting to order. I'm Don Berube, 135 River Road. Mike Lane, Select Board Rep.
Harry Mackinnon, Community Development Director.
Adam Sandall, 9 Edgewood Drive. David Glazier, 80 PC Road. Tiffany Daniel, 117 Page Road.
Okay, so Kit, you're gonna be voting tonight here. And with that, we're gonna jump right into it with public hearings. Application number 206-23, site plan review application for BIP LLC. Request to construct 15,000 square foot building designed for manufacturing, warehouse, or construction use as permitted in the I2 zone located at 380 River Road, map 41, block 2, lot 159.
Read both at one. Well, what I'd like to ask the board is that we do both of these at one time, 159 and 159P, because I'm not joining the sites, but the all of the drainage and things will be contiguous from one site to the other site. So I'm looking to do both of them, and they're almost identical sites, identical buildings. So it would just save you a lot of work if you do it that way, if that's okay.
I like it.
Sufficient.
Yes, so we're also gonna get application 207-23, site plan review application, BIP LLC. Request to construct a 15,000 square foot building designed for office space, light manufacturing with an additional 6,000 square foot roof covered storage located at 8 Tebow Drive, lot 41, block 2, lot 159P. Mr. Gallo.
Rick Geddes, 8 Levens Drive, New Hampshire. So what we're presenting to you is the two lots. Basically, they're adjacent. The addresses are a little funky. Carrie's going to deal with those afterwards. Tebow Drive doesn't make any sense with addresses. We go from 27, 15 to 8. So when we get done, she'll deal with the new lot numbers. On lot 159. Instead of being on River Road, we'd like to move it to Tebow Drive. I don't think it makes any sense to try and get a driveway out on the River Road. Traffic there goes 45, 50 miles an hour. Go on Tebow Drive, traffic goes 20 to 25 miles an hour because it's so short, they're usually going someplace there. So we would like to move this one onto Tebow Drive so that both driveways are on Tebow Drive for both of these.
And that's how you access the lot now, right?
We access a lot now on Tebow Drive, and we have done that. These were cleared 10, 15 years ago by Ernie Tebow when this entire subdivision was done. Both lots are basically extremely flat. There's a small hill off of the corner of this lot here, which goes up to where the public service land is. So both of these buildings would be 15,000 square foot buildings on 159P. We're looking at 2 roof overhangs just for storage on the outside of each building. So you would have 15,000 square feet and then storage 20 feet by 150 down both sides. Driveways are both very similar coming in. As you look at them, paving is the same. Snow storage is similar on both of them. So the main reason that I wanted to do both together is because of drainage. On lot 159P, this side of the building, we're looking to shed the water towards Matt Brown's property. There is a letter in your packets. Matt Brown is allowing us. He has that enormous drainage swale retention pond. When he did his property, that was designed to pick up 7 different properties because they had not been developed at that time. So he was picking up in the vicinity of like 15 acres of drainage, which was coming off from where Felix is, then across the road on Ryan Road. All of that was draining down onto basically the low people on the totem pole, which is me. And that was the next lowest one. So when he developed his, he had to pick all of that up. He no longer picks any of that up because now they contain their own water. If any of you have ever been by that retention pond, I have never seen water in it. It's been there now for 10 years. The only time you see anything is the day we have spring thaw.
Did you take a look at it Monday?
Even then it was draining.
I believe it.
Did it rain Monday?
A little bit.
So Matt Brown is allowed, and it's in the engineering as far as drainage goes here, that this side of the building will sheet towards Matt Brown's property where that retention pond is there. The rest of his property will sheet, the rear will sheet all into this side. This side will sheet, this is the middle of the two properties. So these two sections here will take water from basically, you look at it from the road, the left side of this building, the right side of this building will shed towards the middle. That water will head to the rear of the properties. Across the entire rear of the properties, we'll pick up anything there. Any additional will come across here. On this piece of property here, where we adjoin, where Wayne Gould, who's here this evening and can speak to it, we're going to be doing an easement between him and I. Which we didn't realize, his driveway currently for this back piece here, comes in right in this corner over here. When they did ours, the pin ends up right in the middle of where his current driveway is. So we are going to give him an easement to cut across the corner of our property so he can access his much easier. In exchange for that, he's giving us an easement to share our drainage ditch, to be about 8 feet onto his property across the back lot line that we shared between us. So that's why these two are all contiguous. Any drainage comes over to here. There's a town swale on this side here. Tim Sweeney and I have met. I believe that's probably in your notes from the department heads. We have met. There's an existing 15-inch culvert. Tim has asked that I upgrade that to a 24-inch culvert. So when I come for the finals, we will put that detail in that will increase that culvert to 24 inches on this side over here to handle that. The other small change that I have currently on this building here is we have this corner here was for proposed septic. We're going to propose now instead put the septic on the very back corner of the building, small green space, and then travel. So on this lot, we would have travel all the way around the building. If we put the septic here, that would cut us off. So I'll have that redone. Originally, I was going to ask for a condition on the septics. I'll have those done for the next meeting. We did all the test pits last week. They're designing those at this point in time. We have basically enclosed area for dumpsters on both properties. On this property here, I have a potential tenant. They were looking to put storage bins for like bark mulch, that type of material in this back corner over here. You won't see anything for a propane tank as far as the heat goes. I'm working currently with Liberty Utilities to bring the natural gas down River Road and up Tebow Drive to get both of these onto natural gas, which would be an upgrade for the town also. Matt Brown is interested in joining in on this also. So we're currently working with Liberty Utilities to bring that in. On this building here, basically 100 by 150. We currently have someone that's interested in it. They will be looking to do an office space across the front. One of my waivers will be for the aesthetic design, and that the front of this building and this building would be the lower like 3 feet would be stone face. We would do a veneer. The rest of it would remain a metal building, like 99% of the other buildings in that area. The other, when you saw as far as landscaping, we basically were looking at putting the trees according to landscape design. I think it's every 50 feet, all the way across the front of the property, down across the front of this, and then down River Road here. This is kind of visible. We've asked a waiver that we don't have to do any screening between the buildings. There's no screening where Matt Brown is now or Felix between individual properties. So that was one of the other waivers that I had. The only other waiver that I'm asking for on these is the wetland scientist, that we don't have to do. Most of you are probably familiar with these lots down there. It's more like desert than it is anything else. So, and that's one of the reasons drainage is as good as it gets down there. We are applying for an AOT permit on this, combining both lots, so all of this drainage will be reviewed and go through the state also on this, on both of these. Are there any other questions things I didn't cover?
I can think of, I don't know, anyway.
Yeah.
What is it on this one here? What is the drainage do on that one?
On this one? So this line here is the same as this one.
Is it like an infiltration trench or something?
Yeah, so these are shallow swales. So any water that does come in, everything is designed for 500 plus storms, 500 year plus. So basically, these are almost level all the way. This one pitches down, level across the entire rear. There would be if you look back on one of the other sheets, a small stone detention area here, where it would be like a spillway. If it goes in, this is much lower here than what these are. So everything sheds backwards, sideways, and then across the back of the property. And then back here, where the existing is, where the town water and everything drains from the road, there's a large swale that's pre-existing on this side here. And this culvert, which is 15, Tim has asked me to upgrade it to a 24, drains down across and down to where the railroad tracks are, that whole wetlands area. Drains it, everything here sheds backwards, so to speak.
It doesn't discharge anything for the 500-year storm season?
No, everything is designed to handle a 500-year storm on the property. Is what it's made to handle. So this is how it's designed.
Is it less flow than what's going on right now, or more flow?
Well, these are pretty much all gravel, so it's similar flow now to what's there. I mean, if you're familiar with this area, actually, believe it or not, it's too sandy and it drains too well. So in like Matt Brown's detention pond, he has a layer of mulch because you have to slow down the flow. And the same thing will happen in these, which will all be in the AOT report. When you go for the alteration of terrain with the state, you have to slow the flow down because it goes down in the ground too fast because it's too sandy in this area. So that will all be in the final design. And on one of the other sheets, you can see it details the entire swale. I think do they have copies of all the sheets?
We do electronically and we can pull out the plan.
And I can put these.
You get it, I'm just,
Yeah.
my question is like, what is the offsite flows compared to, like, what's going to the road now versus what?
There's almost no offsite flow on this. Mondays it might have been if it was frozen.
But I guess what I'm saying is compared to what's going on right now, how
No.
much does this increase?
Almost all of it is detained in these swales. I mean, this is a lot of detention area. These are 400 feet here, 600 something feet here, all the way across. So those are all made to contain and then have the drainage go down.
So is there less flow going to River Road with this development than what's going there right now from these two properties?
Yeah, there would be no more. Yes. Yeah, it would not be increased at all.
I don't think there's any water make it to River Road, that swale going down now with everything.
I've never seen any standing water in that. On this property here now, which is all gravel, with a lay down lot, we have a little low area that we made here, and that fills up like 10 inches. We did it just because it drained this way. We had a low spot here, so we drained it. And that fills up, it's like 20 by 30. It will fill up, and then it's gone usually within 12 hours. In that small little, what's existing there now. And we've multiplied that by 20 with what we're doing now on it. And this section here will all go towards North Brown.
So why are we increasing that culvert?
Well, the culvert, basically 15-inch culvert plugs. That one there was just partially plugged. That was done when they did. So there was an issue 10, 12 years ago before Matt Brown did his building and Felix did his. So the water that came off of that hill from public service down across where they now have the Hops place, everything on Ryan Road, none of that was developed. So we had a couple of years where that water came down from up there, flooded all of this. At one point, it took out one lane of River Road, washed the entire thing out. So the town went to Tebow because they had not accepted this road yet, or the subdivision had gone through, but the road was not accepted. So they went to Tebow, who had developed it, and said, this was flat, there was no swale here, no culvert. So in order to handle the water that flowed down this way, it didn't get on the road, it stayed in this 20-foot area here, but then it would get here and it would just go over River Road. So at that time, opened this up to a swale. They put in this 15-inch pipe. When that was done, there was an easement, which the town has, I don't know, do you have, I didn't bring a copy of the easement.
I don't have it on me, but I
Okay.
have it.
Tim Sweeney has it. So the town has an easement going onto this lower property here where this pipe is, that the water that collects in this was allowed to travel through this pipe and go to here. So that's how that pipe was done. And I don't think there was any real engineering done on it. They went in and did it in order to resolve it. It was an early spring and we had to get rid of the water somehow. So that was how Tebow and the town managed that.
So it's the reason that it's being increased is because it wasn't appropriately sized before.
Correct. And it was a 15-inch plug season. And Tim said 18, he said if you could go to a 24. I said, we'll put 24 on the plan and we'll show that in the next plan. When we come in, that we're going to replace that to a 24-inch pipe.
which I remember the drainage in through there, that was a big issue with Matt Brown's going in a part where he had to take care of a lot of that, and that's why there was, he took care of all of it. That's why there's a huge hole in the ground over there for, yeah.
Enormous when he
It
did that.
is.
And it did. We never again had the problems. Yeah, this doesn't really get any water. And this pipe is very seldom ever used for anything. But Tim and I went over it and discussed how we want to do this. It works very well with what's there now. So Tim said, let's leave it. Let's just replace that pipe with a 24-inch, which will be self-cleaning. And that would be, if I would do that, he said, we'll just leave everything as is. So that's why we're doing it that way.
In your packet, there's actually a few emails and letters from 2012, 2016, kind of that Tim Sweeney was able to pull out. And there's one that says in 2012 that from Tim that said the plan we received was to be an open swale. Approximately 130 feet, a 15-inch culvert was installed, and I could not see daylight through that pipe. If I had realized piping was to be installed, I would have suggested 24-inch pipe from the open swale. So back in 2012, he was recommending that it should be 24 inches.
He pulled that stuff when I met with him.
Yeah.
Tim and I had 2 meetings. The design of what he would like to see. He said he was happy with a 24 if I would do it. I said, no questions, we'll be happy to do that.
I mean, I know you've been in the past to get a basic site plan for, trucks, whatever, to someday develop it. I've seen it. Gonna be more than a storage lot.
Yes, yeah, no,
And, working with the neighbors in that drainage is great.
Yeah.
On our property, Wayne had owned property next to us. We had a drainage issue. We worked together. There's a nice little area, on the property line, which is nice and neighborly. I like that.
so I should have these details drawn up by the next meeting. I wanted to see if you had any input or questions or concerns this evening. We have this going to a lawyer to get this part drawn up. Matt Brown's given me the letter already for the other one that's in your packet as far as that goes. So overall, they're fairly straightforward projects.
So that side of Tebow will be fully developed.
Well done, yes.
once that's in.
I guess I have one other question. On the one closest to River Road.
Yep.
What happens to the water that goes from the building towards River Road?
Okay, so that's where, in that letter that she just read, there's an existing swale. I don't know if we're gonna do a site walk on the property. If we do, you'll see it. So right now, this from my lot line, which is here, this is a swale. It might be over a little bit, but from right in this corner here, there's a swale all the way down, which runs to where this pipe is, into that 15-inch culvert. So Tebow installed that swale. Tim and I went over whether we should move that or whatever else. He was concerned with the town water. However, he then found the easement that gives the town the right in this swale here, which runs, it's a big drop off, like 3.5 feet off where the road is. So this is a swale all the way to here. So we're not, instead of reinventing the wheel, it will just continue to go here and then everything would come this way, whatever's there. So there is a swale here, but it's on town property on this edge.
Question, that Brown's letter.
Yeah.
It says, at any point in the future, the amount of water draining into the pond becomes excessive for the pond, then it will be your responsibility to re-divert the water.
So in rediverting it, if you were to look at the next site up where Matt is, Matt's probably 4.5 or 5 feet higher than we are on height. So what he basically said to me is, I don't really care, Rick, because if it overflows, it goes to you anyway, because you're below me. You're downhill. But his only thing is, if things should change in 25 years, it meets all of the 500-year storms at this point. As we all know, after Monday, things are changing. Are they going to get worse in 10 years? If they were, what basically he said to me is, if it got worse, Rick, which nobody can predict. I mean, I don't see how bad it could get that his wouldn't take it. But then he said, I would expect you, Rick, put a bigger ditch in back here or whatever we had to design together to make it work.
Well,
And that's how it,
what would you put?
well, this ditch here, which is only like 2.5 feet deep,
Yeah.
would perhaps have to go to 4 feet
Yeah.
and wider.
Okay.
We would have to just increase these. But that's, I mean, these are all designed for current day
Understand.
standards. I mean, where is anybody gonna put it? If it gets to
I mean, if.
1,000-year storm,
Where's it gonna go? Or if he doesn't develop it, where's it gonna go?
I mean, it's going to us no matter what.
Just a question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
No, is it gonna go across the road?
No, if I overflow, I'm gonna get it to me right there.
Oh,
I mean, he's lower than I am. He's gonna get, no. So everything is designed according to current weather. And Matt's only concern was if the weather changes in 20 years, Rick, I just wanted understood that you gotta deal with it on your end somehow, but I'm not gonna take it, and he's uphill, so he's not taking it, he's giving it. So that's basically,
Well, there's a stipulation. so.
yeah, and that's what the basic, and it made, I understood it. And I talked to the engineer about it, and he said, I can't design for that, because we don't know what it's going to be in 25 years. Does it turn around and get better, or does it continue to get worse?
So,
That's right, that's a flip of the coin
Right.
on that.
two questions, so that would have to be a note. in the site plan.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
And I think that our requirements is a 25-year storm. The things have to be sized to, so he's way over that.
I
It's
think,
certainly not 500.
yeah.
I'm up.
Yeah, because I'm down from everybody.
Well, not Wayne. Not Wayne. He's
Well,
a-
my other one down the other end.
Oh, yeah,
Below
you're-
Wayne. I get to the far end of River Road, 576, I'm the bottom. Everybody dumps. Mother's Day flood, remember that one?
Oh, yeah. I think that's when that corner was a big issue in there, and
Oh,
that was, yeah, that
beyond
was so.
Imagination at that point.
Where does this structure, this weir go to? So this goes over to the ditch in the, there's a ditch in the road here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And so this, the V notch goes into the swale?
Correct, yes, the V is going to be right here, going into the swale right here. So this is, Wayne Gould's driveway right now is right here. It's like this right here. So that V goes underneath this section, underneath this driveway. Goes up here. That swale is, that culvert is right here. The swale starts right at the corner. It's all the way down. Is where the swale is. And if we do a site walk, you can see it quite easily. Exactly how it's kind of set up.
Yeah, so first you should decide whether you want to accept it as complete. Then you could consider regional impact. And then hear from the public some, and then, we can talk about a few of the comments and notes that I had made in the staff report, just figure out how those will be addressed, and then I think, yeah, if you want to schedule a site walk. That's the plan for tonight. As far as completeness, the copies of applications for state approvals, because we don't have a copy of your AOC permit yet.
No.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that, so I would ask that that be the final. That I get to do.
So that's normal that we would be a condition to get the approval. Typically, it's in the checklist that we have the application. At least, and same for the septic. And then the only other thing, and Tim Sweeney actually brought it up, so 5.02 talks about what was drainage. So it says that a waiver of these regulations is required if the stormwater drainage system creates any additional stormwater flow quantities or velocities over other properties. So since the drainage goes into another property, I'm not sure if it is increasing the quantity or velocity.
It won't increase either, it will actually decrease it, because we're now going to hold that. In other words, right now, everything flows in just one direction here, and you'll see it on the sidewalk. Everything now flows basically this way, across this, over to here, is where everything flows. So we are now going to pick up this half, right from half of the building, because it will be pitched that way, the peak. This half will actually flow here. This will all flow to here. This will all then come to the rear of the property, which these are all basically small settling ponds, little detention ponds. This is the way they'll work, all the way there. And then this, the outflow here is if you get into one of these catastrophic storms that we seem to have a tendency for these days. And that's what that's for. That's the only thing that is for. Where now everything sheets all the way across, comes right to here, goes this way, whatever does make it. We've not had any issues with what goes that way. So we're now going to actually slow it down, treat it, put it into the ground before it gets there. Could there be another of these storms that it gets so high that a bit goes there, but no more, it would be less than what goes there now. So we would not increase the flow. If anything, we're going to decrease the flow and keep it on our property.
And half of this property is gonna go back
This
the other
half
way,
here is going to go that way.
which right now it doesn't.
Correct. Everything, no, from here down, correct.
Yeah.
Everything now goes this way, everything lands right where it comes to. And even whatever sheds across, we've never had a water issue that makes it far enough where, we flood, the property below us, which is Wayne's. We haven't, we don't flood that or anything else. So,
So basically, all this is one, you have a quarter of this flow is gonna go the other way.
yes,
Half the flow is gonna come between the buildings to the back property. And
The
then
only thing
a
that will
quarter of the
change-
flow is gonna go to where it's been going.
exactly, yes, that's how it's designed. That's why it just makes a lot more sense than to try and chop it up and do it any other way, the way they're combined.
So when do we wanna go look at this?
You
Or do
should-
we?
Well, you should accept it as complete if you're
Okay.
going to first. So I said the item that's missing is the applications for the state.
I feel like that's pretty common.
It's common that they don't have the approvals. We usually have applications. But, I mean, if it's a condition that he has to get the approval, I don't know if it matters whether or not you have the
That's what I
application.
was thinking. Yeah, I would have no objection. Accepting this.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to that effect. Second.
Right, all those in-
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oop.
now that Jonathan is here, is off his voting privilege, just
Oh.
just to clarify.
So.
Yeah.
In the value also.
We just want 5
Both times.
Is it a minimum of 5?
Well, you don't want 6 votes.
Oh, there, you didn't do that math.
You know, could get tricky in
We
here.
just want 5 voting.
Sorry, Kip. Jonathan showed up too soon for you. All right, so we got 5 ayes. Any nays? All right, so we have accepted the application. Now we want to talk about a sidewalk.
Sure.
Do you guys want to go look at this piece of property? I've seen it before. It's flat and sandy.
What's Monday?
Yeah.
Everyone?
It'll be right up the road. Yeah,
Don't look at me.
I mean, if we're gonna look at this, the ideal would be, sooner than later, because,
It's not.
I mean, I think looking at it on paper is just fine, because it is, I don't know, is everybody pretty familiar with these lots? We've seen them, been down there. It's flat and sandy, so, there's no wetland, there's no. Does anybody really wanna? I don't think it's really. All right, I think we're gonna skip the sidewalk.
Right, it's fine with me.
All right, what's next on our?
You can do regional impact, or you can hear from the public first. Maybe someone will say something that.
Sure, let's open this up to the public. Anybody? Got any comments on this? I see one thumbs up, but. All right, with that, I will close the public hearing. This is regional impact.
Our region.
From out of town. Yeah, get the guys with the bike, red suit, but other than that.
You know what's gonna be going in there?
I have attended to this, they've asked that I not disclose it, I've had discussions with the fire department and so on and so forth. So we're talking, 5 people in the offices and, 10 people in the shop area, no basic retail sales, mostly delivering what they do, so. Then very compatible to what's down there. And this one I haven't had nothing with this one. This one is scheduled to be built first thing in the spring. This is probably a project before we finish. But I figured much easier for you to see everything at once and get it done.
So with that, will you get the drainage and stuff in, like?
So when I do this one, I will do all the drainage. Yes, that's the plan. Do all the drainage. That's why I was gonna come in for just this. But it didn't make any sense because I had to put the drainage across the other one in order to get it to work the way we wanted to develop 2 sites. Because they're flat sites, as you all know, down there. So this is the way that they work the best. So do them both at once. So on this building here, we have already, we're looking at sprinklers, fire protection, suppression in the building, dry system under the awnings. I've gone over that with the fire department to a small degree. We haven't finalized it all, but I have met with them and discussed that detail. So that's all being done.
One question I have about that, I don't think I saw the second water line coming in for the fire service on the plans.
So I'm going to go to them and find out on the person that we discussed the fire suppression with said that it is preferable to do a single line with a T. I don't know if they will do that, so that will be part of my meeting when Whitewater basically handles that. So we've been told that everywhere else, Hooksett, Manchester, Dairy, London Dairy, their preference is to bring in a single main, tee it with 2 shutoffs. So you have a shutoff for the sprinklers and one for the domestic side. If they don't do that, we'll bring in 2.
Okay.
Will
Yeah,
have to be done. I have already met with Unitil, as far as bringing in power, we've already worked on all of that. Everything is already in the ground there, coming off that pole, so we have to fill it, but it's there, the basics are there. It'd be a pad mount transformer, et cetera, et cetera. That's there.
What type of material will you be storing in the bays?
It would be basically construction type materials, like silt fence, stuff of that sort, is what we're looking at.
Okay.
Carrie, is there guidance on what meets the definition of regional impact?
There is somewhere, yes. Generally, it would be, I don't think that this one does,
Yeah,
I don't,
I don't
but I think
either, but-
somewhere there are.
Super nice. Not too scale. Most everything down there would be similar to things I already have down there. Like construction, like manufacturing, that sort of. But this one is light manufacturing, basically.
And we're still published.
Oh, close. Open, close.
Do we
I
do
see one
regional
thumbs
impact
up.
today?
Mhm.
I would make a motion that in accordance with RSA 3656, this is not, or does not have a regional impact. Second.
Adam. All right. All those in favor of that motion?
I,
All right, opposed? This does not have regional impact.
I have one other procedural question. Do we have to vote to put these applications together?
I guess, yeah, I'd say, it would be tidier if like in each motion you actually clarify that for application.
Yeah,
So
we should do it twice.
You have to open the public hearing for the other one.
Might not
Well,
hurt.
open and close it. It's easy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we open up public hearing for the two, but
Yeah, I think it's that.
we're on,
Just clarifying, nobody else wanted to
Yeah.
speak about the other one.
So should we, just, I think for the, yeah, should we amend? the motion?
Sure, I think especially the one to accept it as complete, if you need that one. Okay, so if you wanna clarify
I would
that,
just clarify that my motion, both of my motions were for application number 206-23
and are you just for one or are they for both?
and application 207-23. I was just gonna do it again, but for both.
And everyone agrees with that.
Yes.
we're good. We don't need to do a vote, right? That's.
No, I think that was just a
I want to
clarification.
make sure that was.
I'll clear. I think for the parking calculations, we just want to make sure that the uses for the parking calculations are the same as the uses that are listed on the plan and the same as the uses that are listed on the application.
I didn't get.
Okay.
Did those.
Yeah.
Look at those. I will double check.
On this plan, which is for lot 159, it's all warehouse. For the parking calculations
On this one,
for lot 159.
that's because I don't have anything real specific yet.
So my concern is that the parking requirements for manufacturing are twice as much as the requirements for warehouse. So I just want to make sure that when you switch the use, when you know what is actually going in there, that there's enough.
I'll have them do it for light manufacturing. Yeah, there's plenty of.
Yeah, I just,
Yep.
think about what percentage of the building,
For that.
yeah, what percentage of the building of the square footage would be for different uses. And then the other thing, so the waivers that he requested, I think they're same on both.
Yes.
5.02Y, the aesthetic design standards, so specifically 15.09 for landscaping and screening, and 15.10 for the exterior building facade, because it's almost all metal. It has added the stone facade on the bottom 3
Correct.
feet, which I
Bottom
think
row.
is a
Good bridge, yeah.
a good way to improve that.
It'll help that view with the power plant in the background.
So there was one other component of 5.02Y that you didn't request a waiver from, but I don't believe you meet, and that's 15.12. That's the parking performance requirements, and there are some provisions in there about landscaping within the parking area.
I'll add that to it.
The like landscaping like islands and stuff.
Depending on the size of the parking lot, it would require islands or just some at the edges of the parking, basically. So if you want to take a look at that component, you may need one more waiver for that.
Okay, I was
Portion of
gonna
it.
say, parking in the back, I mean, the front has it, right? Okay. So I'll
I
add
think a
for-
waiver would probably be reasonable in
Yeah.
the situation, just for
So that's 1502 what?
502Y, but specifically 15.12, which is the parking performance.
Okay, I'll add that waiver to it.
And then he's requested a waiver from 8.02M, certification of a wetland scientist. I think it's pretty clear that there aren't any wetlands on the site. And then 8.02R is for the landscaping and open spaces plan. He has indicated some landscaping on the plan, he just hasn't provided a
Yeah, you don't
full
want
out
between the
landscaping
buildings.
plan.
Yes, between buildings.
You gotta make it pretty from the street.
Exactly. So that's why we will go around, bring it down River Road.
Yeah.
Instead of tree sales. Yes, there'll be green space and all that area, so it'll dress up.
And then the planning board needs to determine whether you want to require third-party engineering review. The drainage is a little bit complex here. They have done their calculations and provided those. I'm not qualified to review those. So,
I mean, I know down here it's all sand. And I know, in the past, and I've heard, multiple engineers, the water goes in the ground too fast is sometimes an issue. So I don't, I don't really, I mean, as long as a stamp plan, I don't see us requiring.
And we're doing the AOT.
You're doing the AOT, so the state's looking at it.
So they are more stringent than town requirements.
I don't know if anybody else.
I wouldn't object.
and Tim, I think Tim is always supportive of doing the third-party engineering review. It's mostly because that person would be working on behalf of the town to protect the town's infrastructure in a way that other parties might not. So that's,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the AOT is, at that level.
yeah, AOT doesn't really care what happens on the town's road.
We did discuss that with Tim,
Mhm.
and he felt that if we did 24 inch home, he said to me that he was fine without it going to third party. And he was comfortable with what we had, that he's seen it work basically for the last 10 years and not had an issue since we did put that swale in and diverted what did come through. And that 15-inch culvert is handled until this time. It is plugged up, so I think you can see some daylight through, so I think water does go through it and everything up. But that's why he requested to go to 24 inch, and then he would be comfortable with it. So he and I have met twice on the project and reviewed it together.
So just out of curiosity, when you go to that 15-inch, from 15 to a 24-inch, does that end up, it must end up deeper, right? So the swale like the outside end up?
It's way down. I mean, there's plenty of cover on that. That ditch on River Road is probably 4.5 feet the swale is down, and the culvert starts there.
So,
But
the-
it really-
so the bottom of the culvert will be about the same.
Yes, yes. If anything, I may pick it up a little bit, put stone riprap around it, so that any sediment doesn't from the road, like sand and plowing,
Yeah.
settles a little bit better than what it does now. And there's quite a grade change from here down into here. It drops way off and you get to the other side where the guardrail is, right where the bridge is. That's where it dumps down in there, into that hole, is where it goes down. So there's plenty of cover up that's there.
So I actually have a question to connect a few pieces here. That 502N, that waiver, if these calculations say there's no increased flow or velocity, but AOT says otherwise, but they still approve it, and we don't do that waiver, how would that work?
It's nice to have that application.
Would they say that?
Well, I think
It'd be a waiver. Not required. They were increasing offset flow.
From AOT or?
the other thing is if you did third party engineering review, you could also confirm that way.
Could third party and AOT come up with something different? I would think so, right? I mean, it's more procedural, like if we don't do that waiver and somebody comes up with a number that says increased flow, somebody could come back and say, hey, this isn't approved, right?
We can make that a condition that they can't increase offsite flow.
All right,
I think that's probably a good way to do it.
yeah, probably for next time, right? We have to have some sort of an answer on that to decide what to even do with that. Do you see what I'm saying?
That we don't increase offsite flow.
Yeah, so, well, there's a provision of our rules that say if you do.
Yeah.
You need a waiver.
Mhm.
We're presuming you're not, so we're not gonna do the waiver,
I see.
right? But then what if that's not true? Then you're in kind of, you're not in compliance, right? You don't have a waiver.
I'll have the engineer, I'll have him write something for you. I'll get a statement from him, basically saying that no offsite
And I
flow
think
is, no
that's
increase in
what
offsite flow.
The drainage report probably says, if you're an engineer, you can read it.
I tried looking at it all. Correct, you can't. The
I
average
think that's
person
what, I
can't.
think that's what the report is for, but
Well, that's not helpful.
it's,
for me.
that's why I'm, that's
And
why
the
I'm
only
saying.
reason that we're basically doing AOT on this is technically do these lots without it, because we're under the 100,000 square footage. However, if you remember that when we came in for across the street, that when Tebow did this subdivision, he required an AOT nobody else has done it. We've been the only ones. So that's why I'm doing an AOT, but that's a double cover your backside going through the state, which is more stringent than what the town rates would be. And much more expensive, so we are doing all of that to get this one, which is not usually required to do the AOT, because we're under the 100,000 square foot.
I think on my opinion on third party, if Tim said that a 24-inch, he'd be good, I think you said it.
Yes.
That he doesn't think we would need the third party.
Correct.
He amends his note. I think that would be great.
Yeah,
So
it's really nice switch.
If Tim said he recommended third party engineering, review, right?
He said it, he did not write it on the sheet. He did,
Specifically for this project. I thought you said it was in general.
and he always,
Yeah,
and so he
he said in
did,
general, but I thought,
and he
he also
said,
said-
I remember him asking me, like, do you want me to write it? I was like, should I write it every time? I was like, write it every time you feel it.
yeah,
Because,
right.
he did not write it, but he did write replace the culvert with the 24 inch.
So in that case, to me, I would reject the waiver.
I don't know if he needs to formally waive the review, I think we just are.
Yeah.
For now,
Now
I
we're
guess that
saying,
could change when he comes back, but
For the next meeting, you would have more information about the.
I can check with him and see, I mean, that's gonna be all dictated by Windwater. Just to, which is the water company, I don't know, the board usually, is there a route or anything on that? I mean, we're gonna bring in town water. They're gonna tell me how I have to do it. It's not gonna be, I mean, if I can discuss it with them, they have a change of heart, but if they say it's 2 lines and there's no, I'm gonna do 2 lines, but I'd like to do 1 line, it's, I hear it's better, more efficient, and cost less. But if they say no, but I'm using town water for both sprinklers and domestic, so.
Yeah, when I talked to the fire department, they said that usually we have 2 lines, separate ones, but I don't know if that's a requirement or just what's. typical.
So I'll
we don't
check
have
with
to have
chief or with Tom.
Yeah.
Beforehand, see, so whatever their
in
rules are,
Whitewater and how they
yeah,
write this.
whatever the rules are,
Yeah, I just want the final plans. Depiction of
or
what's
you
gonna
wanna see
happen.
if there's 2 or.
Yeah.
I'll give you 1.5,
I just want the plans to be accurate, that's all.
close to it. I will, for the next meeting, I will check and see. I'll try and dig into that and get a final answer as to whether or not Windwater will go with that. And the fire department. And if they do, then we'll put it on the plan now. I'll get over.
Can I ask a silly question? What's the keep us from like approving these tonight? Like, it sounds like. I don't know, can all of these other things that are hanging out there be conditions?
It could be if you wanted to.
I don't know, what we're gonna talk about, what are we gonna
Yeah.
talk about the next time they come back? So, like, if they talk to Clean Water and they said to do this with the water line, and like, we just have that be a condition to do what they
Mhm.
recommend.
You have to do it that way and just do carry on. Final,
Final plans.
and final plans are basically what ends up on the Mylar, so. You, if they always.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, is there a requirement that we have 2 meetings? I thought this is not.
No, I mean, there's, the public hearing notice went out, if you're not gonna do a site walk or a third party review, I guess there's probably not much reason
No.
to. But, so the things that you were gonna bring back were the applications for the state approvals, and then addressing the parking the parking calculations and clearing up what the uses are. I think that is important, just because you.
Yeah,
I wanna-
I don't have a problem.
Want to make sure we're
And you just
clear on
doing those
what-
counts, you just have to do light manufacturing instead.
Okay, I think I just wanted to be clear on what the uses that you're approving are. And that the parking matches those uses.
I mean, if you want to put that as a condition that parking will have to match usage. Then I'll sit down with you and make sure that that works.
I think it's a little tricky when you don't have a tenant, because obviously you want to leave the uses a little bit open-ended so that you're
And
not.
I'm not going to
locking
lie to
yourself
you, I
in.
may come back to you in a year and say, we've got approval on this. My new tenants here would like to do just like I have over here, I'm gonna put the awning, the overhangs on, or something of that sort. I did a generic, at this point, 15,000.
You've done that before.
And I've done that many, many times before here. Yes,
Something changes,
correct.
you're back to visit us. You like
Yeah.
visiting us.
Yes, I'm a regular.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's to be clear.
I'll deal with fire department and Whitewater. And get that clarified. That's going to be what they tell me.
I feel like there might be a problem approving this in 1 meeting. Because that isn't that expedited review. You would have to meet 1 of 2 conditions for expedited review.
Yeah, it doesn't meet the requirements.
Right.
I mean, you have approved things in 1 meeting without it being expedited review before, but, there are a few loose ends here, so it might be. Instead of tacking on a whole list of conditions next month, it could be wrapped up quickly and be tidy. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with it either way.
I mean, what are you hoping to get your started? I mean, is it,
So my AOT is going to take, we're finishing the application right now.
Yeah.
On that, it's going to be going in the next week or so, and that's a 6 to 8 week review. Stay like that.
So we're not gonna hold them
So
up.
fine. Yeah, you're not going to hold me up. If you'd like to do it, we'll save us all a meeting, but things are not going to change a whole lot. However you would like to do it. it's fine.
I would come back.
just
And we can get.
When is
a
our
copy
next-
of it.
third week? You can find it on the calendar.
When would you need things? Because it's going to be a short month, Gary. With a short week next week.
Yeah, I think. We'll talk.
Okay,
We'll be okay.
as long as you don't tell me I need it by next Thursday. Just,
No, no.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, most stuff, what's the deadline, getting stuff to you a week before?
Yeah, I think it's a week before for like the
Oh,
follow-up
okay.
stuff, so. Once we know to put you on the agenda, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'll have it to you. Regardless of it. I'll get it done one way or the other.
So
Alright,
if
so we
somebody
need a
wants to
motion
make a
to
motion
continue
to
to the
continue,
18th.
please reference both applications.
I'll make a motion to continue application 206-23 and application 207-23 to the January 18th meeting.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah. 4 weeks. All right, thank you. You too. Merry Christmas. All right. Move right along. Application number 208-23, site plan review. Application for Alley Realty LLC, request to construct a 9,600 square foot office warehouse contractor bay buildings located at 27 Dunkley Road, map 35, block 2, lot 165A. Zoned industrial 2. So we have the wetland, we want to take these together through it, the wetland, so we're also gonna discuss application number 410-23, wetland protection conditional use permit application, Alley Realty LLC, requested to construct 110 square feet of impervious parking area within the wetland buffer, as well as approximately 1,500 square feet of disturbance for a stormwater management basin located at 27 Dunkley Road. Anyway. Good evening.
Ron here, Rod Jr. and Andrew McLaren. The lot we're looking at, we have a conditional use permit, and we have that, site plan review. I'll go over the existing conditions first, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's proposed, and then we can get into the details about the conditional use permit and some of the items on the staff memo by Eric. The existing lot is designated as tax map 35 block 2, lot 162A, numbered as 27 Dunkley Road. It's located about 950 feet northeast of Route 3A. So here's the lot. Route 3A is down here. The intersection, signalized intersection. Actually, not far from that last site, I think. The lot it consists of 6.81 acres. As you stated, located in a general industrial zone. There's a private way here with an easement. The easement's to benefit this property out here. Lot 164C. And this being the property line right here. Up here. This being Dunkley Road. The site's not very wooded. You can see from the contours, it's there's some stockpiling going on. So a little history on the site. Maybe some of you guys were around for it or not, but 2005, this project with almost the same layout, with almost all the exact same conditional use permits, was approved by the town and the state and the DEP. And so, for whatever reason, done. To same project with some. So here's a proposed layout. If you were aware of the old site plan that was approved, you would notice that there was quite a bit more units. I think there was 19 units or building, total square foot building of about 45,600 square feet. So it was more of a building footprint, more of an impervious footprint, more of a disturbed. And it's quite a bit more going on. I think that with this proposal, we've improved on that. So what we have is this, again, this is the existing right of way to access this property. We intend to utilize that to access the back of the, I guess I should explain. We're proposing 4, what do you call them, contractor bay buildings. Each building is about 9,600 square feet and comprised of 4 units each. They will have a garage door in the back. We call this the back. And they'll have the office space in the front. Office space about 15 feet by 30 feet roughly. That's kind of what we assume the biggest apartment counts. There'll be a sidewalk connecting all these units with a curb, kind of keeping the drainage control. There'll be an on-site septic. Sewer, there's all the infrastructure utilized. Yeah. Asked everyone I could why it is. You know,
It doesn't go anywhere.
someday, yeah. What goes off our side? The water, and I think this was due to the original approval. Water line was extended off of Dunkley Road down the private way and stubbed out to the current site location. So we tend to tie into that, use that for domestic water for the buildings. Stormwater is difficult in these sandy soils. And I can explain a little bit about the AOT to give you guys a little bit more of a understanding of what they look for. You're right, they don't care so much about the town and what happens to the water. But the rules make it very, very difficult to do any kind of harm with the water. They hold you to the fire on it. And more specifically, they're looking at how you release the water off of your site. They're looking at treatment being for phosphates and nitrates. And they're looking for groundwater recharge volumes. These are the things we're doing the AOT, which we have on the site that was dispersed. Everybody.
Yeah, they've actually have approval already.
Okay. I went through that. And the way that we achieved it, I'm gonna go to the grid plan. A little bit, that was kind of tough topic. Water. Mainly because, and I usually find myself describing these. This last one, the duration was quite long, but if you look at the extreme precipitation events, so AOT requires you to use these values. The values are different throughout the state. Obviously, the seacoast would receive much more rain than somewhere inland on any rain event. So this past rain event, Concord didn't hit a 2-year storm. Up by me, Franklin, we got an inch and 1.84 inches. My road flooded out. Wasn't a 2-year storm. It was 1 5-year storm, and this is that long rain event. And then over the summer, you look at again, I usually go Franklin up that way. It's the NOAA station, weather station. All summer long, we didn't get a 5-year or 10. We're seeing all this damage, and the damage is not because of these extreme precipitation events. It's the rates in which the water falls. So if we're getting a lot, it's a microburst. Microbursts are dangerous because you're moving water really fast, a lot of it really fast. And at the end, stunned, you look and it blew up. It's not even a 2-year storm event, but it rains almost like a 100-year storm event, but it doesn't have duration to actually create the volume that's needed. So we're getting about 2 rain. It does damage. So it's kind of hard to go up there and explain how we're treating the stormwater, which is running it through sand, this treatment. And Tilton asked for a 100-year storm event. I think it's 25 here. He said he did a 500. That's surprising. But that doesn't really solve the problem of the erosion. But that's my spiel on the rain. So we have a surface sand filter, and all that is just, it's 18 inches of sand. It's got to be a concrete sand. It's got to be kind of clean. You could put some organics in it. There is some worry about it going too fast being 10 inches an hour. AOT hits low, slow it down. And that's because it'll start migrating material with it. And it can open up little sinkholes and stuff. So they want to slow that down. We're proposing 3 sections of porous pavement. There's 3 sections because the client plans to phase this instead of going in, blowing out the whole site. There's a phasing plan if you get a chance to look. So the client will go into phase 1, the building. Okay. Install this basin. Surface sand filter. And we're kind of third. But they're gonna leave all this. So once this is filled, let's do section and have some regular type, so they're not trying to cut or escape future. The parking calcs that we have done, have to get a meeting with Barry before we submitted this application, and looked at it. She gave us a pretty good rundown of what to look for. She explained the parking situation where it's based on the use. And originally when we had the application, we put, I think it was just industrial waste. But for the client only being able to use these contractor base for one use, so I put a whole bunch of uses in there, all of which are permissible in this zone. So when we did the parking calcs, I calced it out for the office space, I calced out the rest of it each time for all the different uses that I put in the application, and chose the one that created the most parking necessary. And then added that to the parking in the office, and we were able to meet the parking. Um,
And all that parking's gonna be on what you call on the front side or? on the
both
back?
sides. We assume that you can park in front of your garage door. And it didn't account for inside. Because maybe, well. Um, we are in the aquifer protection overlay. Where I think the stormwater treatment, does its job, to treat the water for state regulations, phosphates and nitrates. There won't be any storage of hazardous materials or gasoline, oil, and I think we actually referenced the town standard on that. Anything more than 5 gallons. Be sure, we're in a sensitive area, but also we don't want any, source control plan that would have to go with the state too, which we didn't do. We have a lighting and landscape plan. Where we are showing downcast, dark sky lighting on the buildings. Nothing over here by the roadway, nothing up by the butters. This is Bog, say that 3 times. So I think the lighting is standard. We had put some plants in, all the plants shown or called for are the plants that are recommended by Bo under aesthetics or that 5.17 or whatever regulations. We do not have any planting on the sides. There wasn't a mistake. I think that it meets the regulations. I think Carrie disagrees with me, and I would be happy to explain why. In figure 15.7 in that regulation full diagram they show. The diagram is saying the preservation of existing woodlands in order to avoid creation of side and rear landscape strips, where they're showing to preserve any existing vegetation on the side of the property if you can, rather than cutting it all down and then putting up very
Not really much for vegetation
well out there.
out there, right?
There is. So here's the thing. So we're gonna protect for parking, right? The parking is really what we're trying to hide. Not so much the driveway, although there is a vegetation line and it is thin, but it is thick enough that it blocks. Where the parking becomes the issue, where we need to hide the parking, there's a 7-foot vertical difference between where the parking is here and the property. You won't see vehicles. The earth is actually doing the buffer in that instance. We can't really plant anything here. We know that this is a sensitive area. This is the wetland buffer, 75 foot, which we use permit for. We don't want to touch any of this. We don't want to plant anything in. Can't plant on the corner. Recently, they just went in and put a bunch of riprap. I don't know who they is, but I know that it looks fresh. The last couple of
Yeah,
years.
that was the whole bridge culvert was just
Just
redone.
So I'm not gonna plant here, so this makes really over 200 feet on the roadway. I don't think it's gonna be very visible. Once you get to the parking on this side, we're talking at the minimum 7-foot vertical difference between the ground there and I think that's good. The back, there is a 26, and I literally measured it before I came using Google Earth image, bringing it to CAD. 26 acre park. Whoa, massive. And it was big. It's true, we don't buffer for them,
Yeah.
but the intent of the reg do not diminish adverse impacts of structures, lighting, rear. Go through the intent. I don't think that we DB equipment. I think we meet it. And, what else we got? Conditional use, I mean. Still have to that. So,
The 6 acre parking lot. That's the point.
There's one.
Yeah, it's, there's not a lot. Hiding, there's,
wide open.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of sand came out of this area.
oh, this is huge amount of sand came out of that. That whole area used to be a lot taller. Like they,
Yeah,
they
by a lot,
literally
yeah.
took off, I don't know, 40, 50 feet of sand came out of there. And there's still lots
Still
of things.
going, yeah. Which we found to this.
So just on the extent, the one thing I'm kind of, along the road is where we do one nice, the next neighbor, something plastics I got, like he has nice landscaping was required when he did an addition. And that's the part that, my concern is that's where it needs to be landscaped and to fit that. Once you drive in and get off, it is a big open sand area and a 26 acre parking lot. But yeah, the road, adjacent to that neighbor, I'm not sure how far back his lot goes next to you. That basically that where your driveway's coming in. Yeah, in there, just whether it's the greenery and make it match.
The component I was referring to was the street side structure landscape strip. Which says that landscaping shall be provided along the perimeter of all structures with a footprint greater than 50 square feet visible from the public right of way. So if the building is going to be visible, I guess maybe the first one at least is visible from the public right of way. This says that there should be a landscape strip like around the building that should be 5 feet wide, at least 5 feet wide, or 2 feet beyond the sidewalk.
2 feet beyond the sidewalk.
It says it minimum of 5 feet or 2 feet
Yeah,
beyond
I
the
guess,
sidewalk.
so that end of the building facing the road, like
Yeah, what
is
is
there
the
gonna be
line?
anything in there or is that? Okay,
Kind of swale. We're gonna use, some closed drainage systems. Will be under that facing, here, and we'll have some swelling going on next to the building. I thought I captured that in the planting in front. I think it'll be difficult to see, but I thought that was enough. So you're saying there should be 2 rows of plants? Is that-
I'm just reading what it says.
That would be-
I can-
Trees. You're planning on putting trees out. If I see
Along
correctly,
the
along the road. But what you're asking, or what you're saying is there should be some sort of like shrubbery or something along that edge of that building, basically.
Or it needs a waiver.
So it's
Or it
not-
needs a
yeah, so
waiver
it
for
says
that.
that there should be landscaping around the perimeter of the structure in addition to along the street, and then there's side and rear landscape strips as well. So the regulations call out a few different types of landscaping. And then additionally, the parking, performance also calls out landscaping.
What's the regulation on the 5 foot numbers? So I can.
we're gonna talk
Oh, yeah.
structures in the middle of parking.
15.09D as in dog.
I mean, I think if they did. What's the elevation difference between the Dunkley Road and where that building is gonna be going?
Is, 50. 250. First one is pretty flat.
So you're gonna have the driveway in on what you call the front side of the buildings. And then you're gonna have access from the road that's already in the right of way that goes through there. Is there gonna be any way to drive from the front side of the buildings to the back side? And as you do this in phases, will you have,
Started to draw that in the phasing plan, it gets really messy, really breaking up each.
so when you build a second building, you won't have access between the buildings?
No, so
Or the
phase
will.
one, phase one will go in.
Just do that, okay.
Here when the second building built, they'll put. Just walk
And the
out.
plan is to keep those gravel or?
Right.
There's a question that had come up when we met the TRC and I forgot to look it up, but the easement for the other lot there, does that spell out maintenance for that and snow removal?
In the easement, so.
Or is there some agreement for who takes care of it, I assume? So they do, but I'd like to, like to look at the, easement and just make sure that it specifies that they maintain it and keep it cleared. That came up, with the discussion with the fire
I
department.
could see that, I mean, with, you know, I mean, Capone had a lot of big plan for that lot and, you know, which was put in, I think, 2019. COVID hit, you know, things did, I don't even know if they plowed that, and, you know, every winter since it went in, because there wasn't use, I'm not sure what's happening there now, but. Yeah.
See your concern, so say that it's not clear, you think it might be a safety concern. I can't imagine, so we're gonna be, this development will have to be plowed. And I can't imagine they won't plow this, if Capone's not coming in, they're like, hey, we're not bringing any vehicles out back right now. I can't imagine it.
They're gonna still want that access.
Absolutely. It's gonna be leased out. It'll be access.
Can you go back to where you had the landscape? No, that's okay. I don't have that sheet, so that's why I wanted this. So, I mean, my thought is you're gonna be driving down Dunkley, you're gonna see that building because you don't really have any way to block. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that we would want to see some sort of plantings or something up by that building. Like the others like back where the parking lots are gonna be, parking spots, to me, that no one's gonna see that, so it makes no sense for us to ask them to put landscaping back there. Right. But that building, you're gonna see it because you're not gonna be able to put any planning out where they're putting the drainage, the stormwater basin.
I think that's a good point, and it kind of goes, may work, and with the waiver request that we have, which is the materials of the building. And section 15, again, with the aesthetics ordinance, calls for kind of a breakup in building material. And in the waiver, you kind of show that none of the buildings in this area do that,
Well, except for the one right next to you,
which
the
is all
plastic.
metal, but different colored metal.
Yeah,
And that's, well, I'm with you on that. So if that was gonna be granted, I could totally see planting this to help break up that building structure. We're feeding the other.
I mean, down there, which, you know, 20 years ago, what was down there was, you know, referred to as a lot of tin cans. The plastic building, you know, they do a nice job with it. You know, the new building after that, which is Tri-State Curb, you know, they've done a nice looking building. You know, and the newer buildings have, you know, they're still metal buildings, but they've put, you know, the little bit of difference of having some two-tone, you know, Felix buildings down there, and, you know, they've done a nice, much better job with it, you know, getting the area looking nicer, and that, and you don't need stone and, you know, different material, you can do it with metal. You know, it's just to give some different color and some breakup. So,
Well, we're still sort of on the topic of landscaping. In 15.12, the parking performance requirements, there's a few things here. So it says that there should be parking landscape strips when parking areas are going to be visible from adjacent public roadways. So I guess that's the question, is how visible is the parking from the adjacent roadway? But if it is, landscaping strip shall be installed, will soften the appearance, like at the end of the aisles, kind of. And then interior pavement landscape strips to break up large expanses of pavement, shall be required with parking lots more than 100 spaces. And I think for you guys at like 101. Okay, so just over.
I mean, we can cut it back, we only need 94.
So something for the board to consider. Those would be the minimum of 5% of the total area of paved drives.
I feel like the likelihood of seeing that parking is gonna be minimal once they have those trees planted out on that side.
So I'll say the reasoning for this one says that it's to break up large expanses of pavement, provide summer shade on pavement areas, and reduced wind velocity across exposed surface areas. So that one's less about aesthetics and just breaking up.
So really, I'm kind of curious. If we,
I'm just reading it. No, I think if you're thinking of like a grocery store
Yeah,
with
the
a
parking lot
massive
next.
expanse of a parking lot.
Yeah.
Point of the big parking area. They want things for tenants. I mean, on the large side, all the pavements.
yeah,
I mean, people that rent those type of units will probably want to have islands.
yeah, you can't, I mean, it makes snow removal terrible, yeah.
I think my point is if you're not gonna meet it, you should request a waiver.
Yeah.
For that specific component.
Yeah.
So actually, when you come down Dunkley Road, and as you go over the new bridge, it is pretty wooded in there, like you don't
Yeah.
see in there very much, in there, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get a glimpse of it between where we're planting and the existing wood line, only where the driveway is.
Yeah. You're gonna be at the driveway before you
That's
see the
that's what I'm saying, is from that direction, you'll catch it, and that's where I could see putting the shrubs up against the building. Like on that, yeah. Good. But the others, I mean, I would be of the opinion to waive those 15, 12 and the other requirements, because it's not like, it's not like they have an entire building that's connected. They're gonna have green space in between each of those eventually, once they get through all the phases.
Well, they're gonna travel between, they're gonna drive between the buildings.
Yeah, but once it's all done,
Yeah,
it's
you know,
it's
what's
grass,
that?
it says grass. Yeah, so it's,
Between the buildings. So when you're in that first building to get, if you wanna drive around the back side, you're gonna drive
Yeah.
around all the buildings. Or back out on the street.
There'll be a curve.
so like, that's all gonna be grass and.
Yeah.
Like, if that wasn't the case, I could see an argument of saying, okay, yeah, you need something to break up that back, but. I mean, that's just my opinion of. That specific requirement. Sorry, Adam, you're.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the porous asphalt that you have back there, so that the intent of that is to manage stormwater that's coming off of the south side of the buildings in that paved area. And normally, I normally don't see porous asphalt in areas where it's high truck traffic, just because it doesn't have the same strength properties.
It's not the strength that's an issue, but traffic can be. The strength, main uses has 101, we have a highway that's, forced pavement. So structurally it's the same, but high traffic areas typically not graded.
But it wouldn't be in the lanes where they're, you know, the slower lanes where it would be in the, probably the fastest, right? Not
It's
heavy
through the,
trucks.
cross, yeah, there's no issue with it.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my concern, I mean, it's your development, and if it gets torn up, you gotta maintain. But from the town's perspective, if it doesn't work or it gets torn up and then you just pave over it and it's not porous pavement anymore, then that stormwater, there's a lot of stormwater that's not being managed unless you do something different.
It is a fail safe, they put it as fail safe. So go back to the forced pavement, the concern with forced pavement in high traffic areas is typically sand, debris, and it clogs the porousness of the asphalt, structurally same. The way that this is graded is, let's hope that, so first of all, the operation that lives with the property as soon as we got the AOT permit, which requires maintaining the stormwater basins to work properly. But if they were to clog, hopefully they don't, it's graded in a way that keeps the water. This is working great for the town as this buffer. Anything we do up here is not gonna go over the road into that wetlands that we're staying out of that buffer area. But it is graded in a way that will keep the water between our parking area and the roadway that will run into this basin.
And that basin sized for all that water too.
It's not sizable. It's not.
So what would you do if the porous asphalt doesn't work?
Well, it's supposed to continue to work, otherwise it won't be meeting the operation and maintenance manual criteria that they agreed to with the state or the state's mandating. But I guess my point is, it's not gonna run free and go on to another property. It will go into a basin, which will at least kill the velocity of it. If there's a berm here, this is a 4-bay, it'll come in. This is meant for settlement. It's not sized, let's say sized. It'll, there's two things that happen when a pond's not sized for extra water. One is catastrophic. The other one is it just lets water out at a higher rate than you would think. We're trying to meet a pre versus post. If more water got in here than we intended, this one won't have a catastrophic failure, which would be a breach over the side. Breach over a place where it's not intended to. So sometimes you'll have a riprap weir, you want it to go there. You'll have earth and berm on the side of it that's a little higher. Catastrophic failure would be, it goes over the earth and berm. That's impossible here, because we have the roadway, which is much higher, and it's uphill here, and this roadway is higher. This is the low point, it all goes there. Nonetheless, it is not sized for that, because we're trying to meet pre versus post, and it will go through the system quicker, but it'll still go to the same place. But let's go.
It's always the case.
Yeah.
So which, that road that goes in there now or right away, that's all paved, right?
Yes,
Now, are you gonna be paving right to that? Is there any,
yes,
so from the road into these parking lots, it's gonna be one,
yes.
and basically it's swelled down, so,
Right now.
Yep. but from the road to the buildings,
This.
Yep.
Now, some of the ones. Some of it's gonna. When you do this area. Here, you do phase two, it's graded in a way that this one, this. And it is. Same thing with phase three, when this one comes in, it's gonna capture that one. And that's why we put the sections instead of one. Ideally though, placement of the forest space, ideally, it would be better to have this here. In terms of maintenance for the forest space.
The little plants, trying to see them. Let's see what the roads actually. I guess what I'm curious is, on that fourth phase, as water's coming down, the porous asphalt isn't catching it. I mean, is it gonna be able to run over the road, or is it gonna be something that kind of keeps it so it has to run?
Yeah, that was tricky. Tricky to now come onto this property, as well as water goes in two places here, it goes here and it goes onto this one. So this whole U-turn area is actually graded, super elevated. So any water that runs onto it pitches in towards the building, runs down next to here. There's a slight little swing, and it's gonna direct it. It is designed to get in.
What happens to the porous pavement when it's frozen?
Well, interestingly, porous pavement can not get icy.
Because the water is able to go
goes
through it?
Interesting. It's cool stuff. The problem with it is pain in the ass to maintain. You got to vacuum. That's it. You can't just use street sweeper. You got to pull material out of it. Clean it. Otherwise, it'll plug and turn into.
Mhm. So I guess, with that, needing that, I know this, the state and your rules you have, it has to keep working, but when is it? When it's not working, when do somebody say, hey, that's not working, you gotta fix it? How's it?
Regulated.
Yeah, where's the policing of it, I guess, or who's regulating it, watching the,
When there's water somewhere, there should be somebody.
somebody calls. I mean, it's pretty interesting, and I mean, is there services that have these, that vacuum it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
It's,
I don't, I don't hear about this, I think it's the first time I've ever seen this going in on something, so I'm kind of curious of, yeah, and how it does get maintained, especially if it needs to be vacuumed out, I mean,
It's
is that,
street. You gotta have some.
yeah,
Managed 50%.
Yeah, there's got
That's a
to,
lot of forest pavement.
in the
Does it?
parking, just where the cars park.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
so there's companies that that do this.
No, the alternative stormwater design to this would be StormTech.
Be what?
StormTech.
Chambers, under the pavement.
Under the
chambers.
pavement, yeah.
That, when I first saw it, I think that seems like I would probably prefer that.
Is, I mean, with this, in like EAT, is there like a maintenance schedule that it has to be done, so often and?
Yeah, so they actually did submit the maintenance manual that it lays out what needs to be done.
Okay. And, but there's no reporting of that, you hope they, I mean, obviously they wanted, with at least space, you would think the owner of the buildings wanna. It's more advantageous to keep it working, because it's gonna get expensive when it doesn't,
It-
probably.
I have a question in regards to that. So like the Planet Fitness as an example, right? They probably dictate what gets used in that parking lot during the winter months. With that road being so close, like I just wonder how often you're gonna have to do that maintenance. Cause you're gonna have a lot of
Yeah,
probably sand coming off of the roadway, right?
I was out there. For whatever reason. But yes, that would be a concern.
So, but if it is plugged up and water is running over it, is it gonna make it over the road, or is it gonna, it's gonna make it down?
It's gonna go. Gonna go.
So-
Once.
Unless it's, a really fast storm would have to be a lot of flow to.
Yeah. I think what you would see in that event would be kind of a wider spot of water. Rather than trickle down, if this was built, rather than seeing a trickle coming down, edge of pavement, you might see a wider.
I mean, it's not, it's a driveway that's running out there. Is there some crown to that, or is it?
Yes, there is.
there is?
It's higher. I mean, everything basically is gonna funnel down to that. Like he said, just based off of the grading. And it's like, it looks like there's 1.5%, right, off the back edge.
Off of-
I'm just looking
Yeah.
at, there's a note on the one page that I've got, it's showing 1.5% pitch. Yeah. So, I mean, if it's raining hard, it's probably just gonna be like a river going right across that area down into that.
I think the only people that would be. About
Yeah.
Again. Works pretty good.
It's crazy. There's a video on the UNH Stormwater Center where they've got like a fire truck with a hose, and they're just spraying this stuff with the hose, and it's just going right in. It's crazy, but you got to maintain it. That's the thing. Like,
I mean, I think it's that because obviously you're getting good infiltration over a wider area versus running everything to one. I mean, it seems like it would be a better thing, so.
We, going through this, we looked at a few different options. On those, because you have a couple. And you test it, the soils on this one will get a little iffy, but the soil on this one is still pretty good. We were thinking, oh, we'll just pipe across the street, get it out of our way, and we're already going. Conditions, 10 square feet, where here. And for whatever is in this, about 1,500 square feet, this area. I thought it would show the board that we're trying to be sensitive to that area.
and you couldn't do like what Rick Geddes just did when he was doing with like a infiltration trench between the road and the pavement, because I mean, it seems like that's like a massive swath of pavement. Like, do you really need all that?
All this.
Yeah, like
So 5 to 1%. So you can only have 5 times as much impervious going into your force pavement. That is not because less than this won't work, it's because.
Well, I think it was just about having that much driveway on the back of the building and.
like if you had like an infiltration trench that was right up against that, like similar to what the previous applicant had. Like that might provide the same level of infiltration and treating, but then you lose that, like, you don't have this giant swath of pavement between the road. Like, if you count the road going all the way to the building, I mean, that's like what? Means this bar scale is 150 feet. Why do you need that much pavement?
It's also just for access. It's a really big curb cut essentially.
Yeah. I
So.
mean, it's huge
you-
access.
Yeah, so it's great if you're trying to get a truck
I'm
in
actually
there,
a little
but
bit
is it?
surprised that Gaponi that, what the, that would want. It's, the road is gonna essentially be part of the driveway all the way
Right.
through there. There's nothing that, road stops here or driveway stops here and
Right.
their driveways, But I mean, it'll make great access to the buildings. I think tenants will like having that and it'll be easy to get in and you won't have to, instead of a short curb cut off there, whatever building that was in front of, it would impede that building because everybody's traffic's gonna go in front of you. Now you're turning in where your building is, where your bay is.
Here, is this where we had the big debate with Cody about the water line? And we had to widen the easement.
Maybe.
Because we have to go in there and maintain that.
Yeah.
Water line,
Right, right. Yeah, it's unusual that it's a town water line that's not on town land.
Property, it's in an easement, so.
Unusual.
Where is the well?
It
So
runs
right-
right
right
down,
on
almost right down the middle of that drive,
Right down the
drive.
middle.
Yeah, it's on this,
Perfect spot.
like right down the center of it.
Yeah, so we did record that.
Widen that easement. For that road.
It is a stub coming off that water line already, so you're not gonna have to cut into their driveway.
Exactly. That I don't know.
There's-
Well, that's what he had said at the beginning, that there was a
Sure.
water stub.
Doing a 6-inch existing water coming off. At least on the plan.
Question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing and you're not gonna hardly see in here unless you're really looking down the entranceway. With this, I mean, I could see Gaponi having, questions, because I could see people say, yeah, park it in the back of the lot, and, keeping their driveway as, or right of way, the open right of way and not part of the the driveways, but that's Gaponi and their problem, that's all, and that's not a town question. So what do we need to,
Yeah, is it
Do
all
with
right if
this.
I go for my question?
Absolutely.
So department head comments, Tim Sweeney, Director of Public Works, did specifically recommend third-party engineering review on this one. And he also requested that Whitewater take a look and review the water connection. Have you had any conversations with Whitewater yet? Or is it premature?
Lucy.
Good.
Nothing formal, I guess.
No, that's
Right.
That's good. And then fire, wanted to discuss with you the potential need for fire suppression system. Don't know if you've looked into that at all yet.
Yeah, I'm under the impression.
Okay.
Um,
I think, you should chat with them and make sure that you're all on the same page, because I know that makes a big difference in planning for a development. I know it depends on the use and the occupancy more than the size, I think, so. And then the building inspector recommended that the driveway should be named, not at this point, but once after it's approved, that the driveway would be named, and that right now the whole lot is known as 27 Dunkley, but you could name the driveway, alley place, whatever you want, and then each building would have its own number, and then units A, B, C, D in each of the buildings. That's the recommendation from the building inspector for addressing. And then a couple of checklist things that I didn't see. I didn't see the electrical utilities on, maybe they were there.
No, I don't think-
Okay,
typically no. I'll show them and then utilities.
in our regulations, it
I don't
asks
either.
for all utilities to be shown, so. Do you guys want to?
So-
Yeah, go ahead, back.
I'm just kind of curious, the naming the driveway.
Because if not, then it's all those addresses on Dunkley, and they're really not on Dunkley. You get into a situation like Dow Road, which really shouldn't have been addressed the way it is. They don't like to have multiple buildings that aren't really on
So so
on the
you're
road.
making that driveway a private road, basically?
Private.
By putting a name on, just for address purposes, so you have a name instead of being all Dunkley Road addresses.
So. Two buildings.
It's more for the E911. So the emergency services are more clear about where things are and what they
Yeah.
are. That's what they
Yeah, but when
prefer.
it's not a road, like. Google's not gonna list that road name because it's not a road. I mean, if it's, so what's the street number gonna be?
Right now, it's 27 Dunkley.
27 Dunkley Road, unit,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. A, B, C, whether it's a number or I don't know, it's not, obviously this is what's sparking the discussion, but it's a discussion for a different time. I
Yeah.
just think that's a kind of, when they alleyway or alley road, but that's not a road. I think it could confuse 911 more than help, but what do I know? I
So
mean,
that was the building inspector's
Yeah.
recommendation. We will always check with E911 also, so we can check with them and get their formal recommendation too.
okay.
But we don't need that right now.
No, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I want 911 to be able to get there, and I think that would actually confuse them, so. But, all right, so anyway, next,
So electrical utilities, the regulations say we want to see them on the plan.
yeah. Probably coming in all underground, right, so,
Oh, here,
Yeah, I saw the pole and an arrow, but
oh, there's a guy wire.
okay.
Yeah, no, I don't, every single time I show them, they put them wherever they want, but I have no problem showing. Does the town require underground to go above ground?
I think so, right, it is,
It is supposed to be underground.
yeah, underground. I mean, it's stuff where we waive for, but I didn't see that here, I mean, you got big open area and,
Pretty easy digging.
yeah,
Small potatoes, but I didn't see the magnetic north arrow.
Yeah, no,
Is it
yeah,
on one of
that's
them?
the
Is
existing.
it on one of them?
Jesus.
Okay. Okay, you got it there. Okay. He's probably looking at different. sheet.
No, it wasn't there when you made that comment.
Oh, okay. I noticed, I told you that we needed the statement and I looked at this too, so we really did know the first time. And then restoration plan, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine typically that's covered with a bond. And and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a plan to protect the town from erosion that may occur if the contractor goes belly up mid-construction. So they're not trying to finish the job, they're just trying to make it vegetated.
Yeah.
So,
which a lot of this isn't very vegetated. I mean, it's,
so to provide that community narrative,
So what it says here, a restoration plan shall accompany all applications for site plans that require a UT permit. Purpose is to ensure that disturbed areas permanently stabilized if construction ceases for more than 1 year. Or if it's abandoned, or if they disturb an area outside the area approved. Plan shall specify the methods and standards proposed to permanently reclaim disturbed areas. Plan should be accompanied by an independent cost estimate to implement the plan. And approved performance security sufficient to implement the plan shall be submitted prior to disturbing the environment.
I think I have.
To assemble that into a narrative. And then the independent, excuse me, an independent cost estimate to implement it. And then the security.
So, an independent cost estimate. Okay. It's a question of performance fee volumes and silt pence or silt talks.
I believe it just says an independent cost estimate, and the cost estimate shall be subject to approval by the board.
I mean, I like the approval by the board part, but I think the engineer should be able to do it. I mean, this isn't a housing development.
Sounds reasonable.
Yes,
to me.
idea.
I have one more question. So I noticed a note that's in the plan, and it was gonna be a question until I read that, but it says no dumpsters are being proposed for the site. What are you planning on doing with like trash?
They'll be on the tag. There's no plan for dumpsters right now. We understand that if there was, it would have to be screened, approved. So we're not gonna propose any. We don't want to encourage people dumping, large items on site or encourage any unknown use of the dumpsters. With that being said, we would.
I mean, I guess that's something that's a good question, because they're not gonna take the trash home with them every night. You gotta have some, commercial doesn't get town trash pickup. So, I mean, I'm sure they're gonna create some trash.
So, other problem,
But I get it, you got 16 different units, so.
you deal with that. Is if they pay the same, this guy's using more of it than I am.
Well, that's something you have to work out.
Right?
Yeah,
Is it something that is?
you gotta, I mean. You're gonna need to deal with some trash. I mean, if it's
So we have to have a dumpster.
well, some type of trash. Well, yeah, some way to take care of it, right? I mean, I don't know what's,
Do you want to see a proposed location where they could put a
Yes.
dumpster if they becomes necessary?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking for?
That our, privately,
Can you just give your name and address?
Ron or Junior. We just, in other developments, whether they be residential or commercial, we've had private contractors pick them up separately to avoid dumpster location on site. And that's what we're
our intention here was to avoid the dumpster.
Well, I guess, I mean, but when you have Bernard picking up, I mean, what are they? What are you doing with the I mean, they're coming once a week? I imagine they're not, it's not a daily basis.
Once a week, and everyone has a trash barrel. And we pick them up.
Is that,
Now, that might not work here.
Yeah,
I'm aware of it.
Well, that would depend who the tenants are.
yeah,
I mean,
Well, that's,
so.
I think if you just have an area that you would just, designate as if it was, if it became a requirement to incorporate it rather than having to figure that out after the fact. Like, I just,
Who requires to put in a dumpster.
You mean by required, you mean if it becomes necessary?
yeah, that's. what I
Yeah.
meant by-
not required. It's
Not
just-
required.
I mean, I've never really looked to see what, I mean, we have other buildings, quite a few of these down in that area, or where they're usually any plans that come before us,
Yeah,
everybody has a dumpster. I don't recall a piece where there wasn't that provision, so that's why I'm kind of. I mean, I guess if everybody has a barrel that they're bringing out and you have a,
yeah. And I mean, I can understand that. And I guess without knowing who you're gonna have as tenants, so it gets hard to say, but I'm looking at it. And like, if you have tenants that are doing like light manufacturing in those bays or something like that. And you don't have a dumpster area,
No, I mean, we could put it, get 30 feet between buildings. Yeah, there's places it can go. Again, it's not anticipated that what's gonna be needed. But we can show.
it's just a
we can
question,
absolutely show it.
I saw that note on there. And
No, I'll show it.
interesting.
As an option.
Make sure. The edge of their part. If he has to dig it up, make sure you have nothing.
The emergency access plan. If they talk to the fire department, I think what they would like to see is if you can just show like the fire truck turning radius and show that they can make that corner around the back to get full access around the site.
You know what the. Original.
Sorry, I don't know how big the trucks, I don't know anything about the trucks.
The big ones here. Use ladder trucks or.
I don't
No,
think,
we don't
because we don't
have
have any
ladder
tall
trucks.
buildings. We don't have any tall buildings, so. If you reach out to Tom Ferguson, you can talk to him about
Looks like they're
sprinklers.
pretty good.
Fire trucks.
Doesn't look like it'll be an issue, but it'd be good to just
But we
know that.
require an emergency access plan,
Yeah.
so they just say, show us that the trucks can get around the building and have full access. We'll make that. Say, and then the operational brief is just a short narrative that just explains basically what you said in your intro tonight. Their contractor bay is just a little story of what you're planning here.
If you don't require sprinklers, are there gonna be any hydrants?
Located. Here. On the, so right in front, right away.
Not anything back into the property?
I know there's one of proponents lot, but
I don't just,
yeah,
We'll talk to the fire chief and see what he needs. I'll make sure it's written, so.
The other thing is I had noticed that there was a spot where the parking area was closer than 10 feet to the property line. Were you able to address that?
Which,
It was over on the.
driveway?
Oh. Over in the parking. Says parking surface area. Hmm.
What would you like?
It's a driving surface area, but
I can move.
if you can scooch it a foot. Yes. And then the other question I had. Well, if that's gonna become a problem, let's look at the exact wording of it and make sure, but. It says off-street parking and loading.
You get a lot of that.
So I guess it's really a drive.
I'll move it.
And then, well, actually, so driveways, similar access ways have to be 15 feet from the property line. So if you're gonna make that argument, you're gonna get yourself in a bigger pickle.
I mean, that's a waivable thing too, right? Or is that a?
And then my only other question was, I don't know if you knew what I meant when I said was wondering about a stray wetland symbol.
Yes,
Okay, was that really a mistake? Or it was just confusing me. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just right there. Yeah. Okay. Not a big deal. I just wanted to make sure that I really understood where the wetland line was.
typically won't label flag notice.
One other thing I will bring up with the board. Voice is starting. The community service impact assessment. I don't love the way it's written. So it talks about, this is for large scale developments where it contains 100 lots, 100 residential units, 100 acres, 8,500 gross square feet of office or commercial space. Excuse me. And 417 acres of industrial land. So, I mean, these buildings are 9,600 square feet each. So it says 8,500 gross square feet of office or commercial space. It's well over, but it feels out of line with all of the other elements.
What does the regulation do?
So it just requires that you do a community services impact assessment, which assesses the demands it'll place on police, fire, emergency, water, sewer, roads, recreation, blah, blah, blah. So when it says office or commercial, I don't know if that means like retail, or if it means all commercial.
I mean,
It doesn't,
I could, as far as impact of what cost of town, this would be a very tax positive.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But strictly reading 8,500 square feet of office or commercial space.
Seems like it should be 85,000. You need a zero.
It doesn't make sense. It's when the other comparisons are like 100 lots, 100 residential, 100 acres.
And 8,500 square feet of commercial spaces
Is nothing.
Yeah.
I originally said I like flagged it as something for them to do, and then I read it again. It just doesn't make sense. So I don't know if this was meant, I don't know, office, if it meant any commercial or.
To review.
The last.
No, because after I read it, I was like, that just doesn't. That's what it says. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we.
Um, Was that, we still have a public hearing?
Take a look. Go 8-2.
Wasn't
There's also a CUP.
We're gonna have to accept that. Right?
Hmm?
Do we have to accept that?
You don't have to do it in the same motion, but at some point you'll
We
have
have
to.
to accept both.
Mhm.
Then, yeah, I would accept both.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Do the public hearing first.
All right. So we're gonna open us to the public, if anybody, any good comments or? Seeing we're missing a football game. All right. Seeing that, I'm gonna close the public hearing.
You can do regional impact, and then the other thing is if you want to talk about the CUP.
Yeah, we should probably talk about the CUP a little bit. So what their impact is on the other side of the paved driveway from the wetland, right?
Yeah, Mara, do you mind just pointing out the wetland buffer impact areas?
This is the delineation for the wetland. This is the 75-foot delineation for the wetland buffer. It ends this. 15 minutes.
Which we just on the other side of the buffer is supposed to keep the runoff and we get a road that isn't gonna let it.
Yeah, this is certainly secure.
Yeah,
Road, is the road must have blocked
Yeah,
the existing road.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a barrier to any.
you can see that piece of buffer is doing any buffing.
Couple things I'll note. When on the original plans, you didn't, obviously I could see what areas of impact were in the buffer, but if you could actually indicate those and show the area and maybe shade it or something so that these are clearly marked, these are the impacts we're requesting. And then the other item is that we require the functional assessment of wetlands even when it's just a buffer impact. I don't see that it would really do much in this case, so I would recommend maybe that you request a waiver of that. That's part of 10.01F2B. 10.01F2B. It's kind of buried in there.
Did Conservation Commission have any comments on that?
They didn't forward any to me. Were you guys at the Conservation Commission Monday night? No.
I mean, because that's on there, they need that, they need to go to the conservation.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll touch base with Sandy and make sure that that happens. So the 10.02F2B says that the proposed activity minimizes the degradation or loss of wetland resources, minimizes it, as determined by a wetland resources evaluation in accordance with an established methodology. So I think that is the requirement that you would most likely request a waiver from.
So, do you want to schedule a site walk for this one?
I believe it's-
We're gonna look at a bunch of sand that's on the other side of a paved road. I think we can look at it all on paper. All right. What else we need to do with this tonight?
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it doesn't. Right close to that beautiful new intersection that seems to be working very well, so.
I'll make a motion that this does not have regional impact.
Which applications are you referring to, Mr. Bridges?
2023. You don't need it. It seems weird, and also. If they just came in with a wetland, you would still have to do regional impact.
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
single application,
1,500 square feet of wetland buffer.
every application. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Peer review is that.
So yeah, that's the other decision to make tonight.
I think on the. With the drainage and the. Porous surface. Is definitely. Something that we haven't seen, would be nice to.
Yes.
We don't have to make a motion.
It'd be nice. Let's make it clear.
The motion would be, we're going to require third-party review
Third-party engineering review.
of the drainage. So moved.
For what application is that?
Mr. Glazer.
So this would be.
Yes.
This is really-
Yeah, 208 that. 23. No, just that. one.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed?
E and K.
Gale Engineering. It's Scott Forcier. He was at D&K, but he moved to Gale.
And now. Continue. To the 18th, is that?
It's gonna be a long night.
Yeah. Oh,
What was that? Up to 3?
So, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that,
When do you want to come back?
you wanna come back in 4 weeks or? 8 weeks.
Honestly, we haven't really done many of these since I started, so I haven't seen it in action.
we could. Motion to continue it to the January 19th on the condition that we get the, or 18th, January 18th, on the condition that we get the third-party review feedback. Otherwise, I think we would want to continue it until we got that third-party input.
I've been, Meeting.
I don't love leaving conditions that open-ended, because if there were any changes to be made based on that review, it just leaves it kind of messy at the end.
But we can just continue to the 18th and see. Comes in, right, plan for that. I guess see what you want and then if it doesn't, we'll just adjust.
In which case you guys. On the 18th, just.
So I'll make a motion to continue application 208-23 and application 410-23 to the January 18th meeting.
All fair?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You have a question?
When is the when is the con conference?
They met this Monday, so usually the third Monday, it's the second or third Monday, depending.
It should be
calendar works.
before.
But generally it's
The Monday.
the Monday that
Usually
we, the few days before. Yes. Are you, so you'll reach out to the Conservation Commission, or do you want me to close that loop too?
Either or.
Okay.
I've been doing it, I know it's coming.
Okay, you have the contact. Perfect. If you haven't, if you can just do conservation@bonh.
So, yeah, another thing I'll add, I do like the project, I'm glad to see it. It's a lot, trying to get developed with this. It's good luck with it all.
I'd say I think it's an improvement from what was previously approved.
Yes.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas, you too. Worst part. What do we got here?
Email from Andy Putz that he wants it to share with.
Based on last.
I just have a question about that. This is what you were telling me, right? This morning, this is getting the Blue Mills district. Is that what this is in reference to?
Some of it is.
It looks, having read it earlier, read the meeting minutes, is basically responding to everything that happened.
Oh, okay. Was he here or was he watching?
His 10 cents in the
10
meeting.
cents on the topic.
I'm just done.
As we talked about,
Yeah. Notice.
raising the height of cell phone towers allowed without a waiver based on our whole experience. We talked to Doug, Sandy wasn't here, but Sandy that cared about wetlands, making it clearer that it wasn't prohibited, that you just needed
So this is all the zoning changes. that
yeah,
we're
it's all
doing.
in response.
Okay, I didn't know if it was just related to that one property.
I will say Sandy wasn't able to make it tonight, but she did send an email. She said that this correspondence was discussed for number 3. She just wanted to clarify that the wetlands buffers and setbacks were put into place well before her time in Bow.
Yeah, my understanding is Sandy's not just making rules on her own. So,
That's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. we don't do anything formal with that, just acknowledge.
No,
Okay.
just send it to me and I said I would go over it to the board. And then Ginger, which of the meeting minutes did Sandy have her comment on?
Minutes.
Line 87. Oh, no, never mind. That was not it. Sorry, hold on. 80, all right, it is 80. Line 80, McChrystal needs an extra L.
That was the only comment?
It was.
A pretty good list of comments.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well done.
motion to approve the minutes as amended,
Which ones? Yeah, two seconds.
November 16th.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's the 16th minutes. And did we get comments on the 7th from Sandy?
But she did.
She wasn't here
She wasn't here either. Okay.
and I wasn't.
Like this.
Oh,
I'm gonna approving these because I wasn't here to.
as long as there's enough people to vote,
Yeah,
it's okay.
So if you're recusing yourself, I should have Kip vote.
Are you gonna recuse yourself or just abstain?
Abstain.
He's gonna
Yeah.
abstain, okay. So who wants to make a motion? Anybody like to make? Was there any changes? Did anybody?
I had a few comments, but I think that they're incorporated into this, right?
Yeah.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained.
Yeah.
Four-
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Ugh.